You wake up tired, even though you slept a full 7 hours last night. Your body feels heavy, and your mind moves slower than you expect. You reach for coffee, hoping clarity will return quickly. But even the second cup barely sharpens your focus. You have tried dieting before, reducing sugar and tracking every calorie carefully. Still, the belly fat remains, stubborn and strangely unmoved by effort. Then someone mentions 18-6 fasting as a structured alternative. You eat within 6 hours, then fast for 18 hours daily. It sounds simple, almost mechanical, almost too straightforward to be powerful. Many people believe 18-6 works only because calories naturally decrease. They worry fasting this long will slow metabolism or burn muscle tissue, but your body is not a fragile machine that shuts down easily. It is an adaptive system shaped by long periods without constant food access. During the first 12 fasting hours, your liver releases stored glycogen steadily. Glycogen is stored glucose, like backup fuel inside your internal tank. Around hour 14, those reserves begin running noticeably lower. By hour 16, your cells sense declining energy availability. A molecule called AMPK rises, acting like an internal energy thermostat. AMPK signals the body to conserve fuel and increase fat oxidation. Another pathway called mTOR, which promotes growth, becomes temporarily quieter. This shift does not mean starvation is occurring inside you. It means your body is switching fuel strategies intelligently. The real question is what happens when you repeat this pattern daily. One day creates a signal, but 30 days create adaptation. Over time, your mitochondria become better at burning fat efficiently. Your hormones communicate more smoothly without constant glucose interruptions. What changes is not only weight, but metabolic flexibility itself. By the end of this journey, you may not just feel lighter. You may feel clearer, steadier, and more in control of hunger. Let us begin with what happens during the first 18 fasting hours. During the first 12 hours, your body uses stored glucose for energy. This stored glucose is called glycogen and is kept inside your liver. Think of glycogen as a backup battery you carry everywhere. Every time you eat carbohydrates, that battery gets partially recharged. When you stop eating, your body slowly drains that battery instead. By hour 12, glycogen levels begin dropping more noticeably. By hour 14, and the liver works harder to maintain blood sugar. An enzyme called glycogen phosphorylase breaks glycogen into usable glucose units. This keeps your brain supplied with steady fuel during early fasting. Around hour 16, most glycogen stores are significantly reduced. At this moment, your body must choose a different strategy. It cannot depend on glucose alone anymore. The liver activates a process called gluconeogenesis. Gluconeogenesis means creating new glucose from internal materials. These materials include amino acids and small carbon fragments. Soon after, another pathway begins increasing in activity. This pathway is called ketogenesis, and it produces ketone bodies. The New England Journal of Medicine has described this metabolic transition clearly. Ketones are made from fatty acids released from stored body fat. They travel through the bloodstream as alternative energy carriers. Your brain gradually learns to use ketones efficiently. Many people describe clearer thinking during this adaptation phase. This is not magic or detoxification happening suddenly. It is fuel switching at the mitochondrial level. Your cells become less dependent on constant carbohydrate supply. After several days, this switch becomes smoother and faster. After several weeks, the transition requires less hormonal effort. 30 days allow your metabolic engine to run more flexibly. You are not starving your body during this process. You are training it to operate on multiple fuel systems. Now, we move deeper, beyond fuel switching, into cellular repair systems. Around hour 16, cellular energy levels begin to decline measurably. Inside each cell, ATP represents usable energy currency. When ATP drops, Another molecule called AMP begins to rise. This change activates an enzyme named AMPK. AMPK functions like a cellular emergency energy manager. Its job is to protect the cell during low fuel conditions. It reduces energy-consuming processes such as new protein synthesis. At the same time, it suppresses another pathway called mTOR. mTOR normally promotes growth, building, and nutrient-driven expansion. When nutrients are abundant, mTOR signals cells to construct new components. But during fasting, AMPK temporarily quiets that construction order. This pause allows a different process to take priority. That process is called autophagy. Autophagy means self-cleaning at the cellular level. Nature cell biology has described fasting-induced autophagy clearly. Damaged proteins and worn-out mitochondria are identified and dismantled. These broken components are sent to lysosomes for breakdown. Lysosomes act like recycling centers inside the cell. Their enzymes digest old material into reusable building blocks. Those building blocks are then reused for essential maintenance. Think of this as a city stopping new construction temporarily. Instead of building skyscrapers, it repairs broken infrastructure first. Autophagy does not activate instantly on day one. It strengthens with repeated fasting cycles over time. 30 days provide repeated signals that reinforce this pathway. Cells become more efficient at clearing internal debris. Mitochondrial quality improves through selective recycling processes. This may contribute to improved energy stability and resilience. However, autophagy requires balance, not constant deprivation. The fasting window must be followed by adequate nourishment. Growth and repair depend on cycling between suppression and rebuilding. That rhythm is where adaptation truly happens. Now, let us look at what happens to your hormones during 18 hours. Insulin levels gradually fall as glucose intake stops completely. Low insulin is not dangerous in healthy individuals. It is simply a signal that food is temporarily unavailable. When insulin stays low for extended periods, receptors get a break. Think of insulin receptors like doorbells that ring too often. If the bell rings constantly, the system becomes less responsive. That reduced responsiveness is what we call insulin resistance. 18 hours without food allows those doorbells to rest. Over repeated days, sensitivity can improve measurably. The Journal of Clinical Investigation has examined fasting-related insulin dynamics. Lower insulin levels also allow fat cells to release stored energy. This process is called lipolysis. Lipolysis breaks triglycerides into fatty acids for fuel. At the same time, another hormone begins rising. Growth hormone increases significantly during prolonged fasting. Growth hormone helps preserve lean muscle tissue. It also stimulates fat breakdown while supporting tissue repair. Norepinephrine levels may also increase modestly. Norepinephrine enhances alertness and promotes fat mobilization. This combination creates a hormonal environment favoring fat oxidation. Importantly, muscle tissue is not automatically destroyed during fasting. Muscle breakdown accelerates mainly under prolonged, severe starvation. With adequate protein during the eating window, preservation is achievable. Over 30 days, insulin patterns become more stable. Post-meal spikes become less extreme with balanced food choices. Energy fluctuations decrease as metabolic flexibility improves. However, excessively refined meals can reverse these benefits quickly. Quality of food remains as important as timing. Hormonal optimization requires consistency, not extremes. The next step involves changes in brain signaling and clarity. Let us now shift from hormones to your brain itself. Around hour 16, ketone production increases steadily in the liver. One ketone, beta-hydroxybutyrate, travels easily across the blood-brain barrier. This molecule is more than just fuel for neurons. It also acts as a signaling compound inside brain cells. And cell metabolism has described ketone-induced gene expression changes clearly. Beta-hydroxybutyrate can stimulate production of a protein called BDNF. BDNF, stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of BDNF as fertilizer for your neural network. It supports growth of new synaptic connections. It also strengthens existing communication pathways between neurons. The hippocampus, critical for memory, responds strongly to BDNF signaling. Repeated fasting cycles may gradually increase baseline BDNF expression. This does not happen dramatically overnight. It requires consistent metabolic signaling over weeks. Some individuals report improved mental clarity during adaptation. Stable ketone availability may reduce energy fluctuations in the brain. Glucose swings often contribute to mental fatigue. Ketones provide steadier energy without sharp insulin shifts. However, brain benefits depend on adequate micronutrient intake. Deficiencies in omega-3 fats or magnesium blunt neurological adaptation. Sleep also determines whether BDNF pathways function optimally. Chronic sleep deprivation reduces BDNF production significantly. 18-6 fasting works best alongside stable circadian rhythms. 30 days of consistent practice allow neural circuits to recalibrate. The brain gradually learns to operate efficiently under dual fuel systems. This flexibility may contribute to sustained cognitive resilience. The final mechanism involves systemic inflammation and immune signaling. Now let us examine what happens to inflammation during 18-6 fasting. Chronic low-grade inflammation drives many metabolic diseases silently. A key inflammatory complex is called the NLRP3 inflammasome. Nature Medicine has described how this complex amplifies inflammatory signaling. When activated repeatedly, it promotes release of pro-inflammatory cytokines. These cytokines contribute to insulin resistance and vascular stress. During fasting, beta-hydroxybutyrate levels gradually rise. Beta-hydroxybutyrate does more than supply energy. It directly inhibits activation of the NLRP3 inflammasome. Think of this molecule as a biochemical fire extinguisher. Instead of fueling inflammatory sparks, it dampens the reaction. Reduced inflammation improves insulin receptor responsiveness. It may also support healthier endothelial function in blood vessels. This does not eliminate inflammation completely. Inflammation is necessary for healing and immune defense. The goal is regulation, and not total suppression. Repeated daily fasting cycles reinforce anti-inflammatory signaling patterns. 30 days create measurable reductions in inflammatory markers for some individuals. However, benefits depend on dietary quality during the eating window. Highly processed foods can reactivate inflammatory pathways quickly. Omega-3 fats and polyphenols enhance anti-inflammatory effects further. Sleep quality also modulates inflammatory responses strongly. Poor sleep can counteract fasting-induced benefits significantly. The immune system responds best to rhythmic stability. Balanced fasting patterns support that rhythmic regulation. The final adaptation involves your gut microbiome. Now, let us look at what happens inside your gut during 18-6 fasting. Your intestines are not idle when you stop eating. They shift from digestion toward repair and barrier maintenance. Continuous grazing keeps the gut in constant digestive mode. 18 fasting hours create a pause in that workload. This pause allows intestinal cells to repair minor structural damage. Science has explored how fasting influences microbial composition. One bacterium frequently studied is Akkermansia mucinifila. This microbe feeds on mucin within the gut lining. During fasting, mucin turnover increases modestly. That environment may support growth of Akkermansia populations. Higher Akkermansia levels are associated with improved metabolic health markers. However, diversity depends heavily on what you eat during feeding hours. Fiber acts as fuel for beneficial bacteria. Without adequate fiber, microbial diversity declines over time. Our short-chain fatty acids from fiber strengthen the intestinal barrier. A strong barrier reduces systemic inflammation. OMAD and 18-6 both alter microbial feeding rhythms. Some microbiomes adapt positively to this oscillation. Others respond better to more frequent moderate meals. Individual variation plays a significant role here. Digestive comfort is a practical indicator of microbial balance. Persistent bloating or irregularity suggests adaptation stress. 30 days may shift microbial patterns measurably. But quality and diversity of food remain decisive factors. Feeding frequency shapes the microbiome, yet food composition shapes it more. Gut health must be considered alongside hormones and mitochondria. Now let us discuss how to apply 18-6 safely for 30 days. The first principle is how you break the fast. Do not end 18 hours with refined carbohydrates or sugary drinks. Begin with protein and fiber to slow glucose absorption. This reduces the intensity of the post-meal insulin rise. Stable glucose prevents energy crashes later in the evening. The second principle involves electrolyte balance. Low insulin during fasting increases sodium excretion by the kidneys. Mild sodium loss can trigger headaches or fatigue. Adding mineral-rich water supports fluid stability during fasting hours. Magnesium intake may help prevent muscle cramps or irritability. Hydration is not optional during extended fasting windows. The third principle is nutrient density. 6 eating hours must provide adequate protein and micronutrients. Protein supports muscle preservation and recovery processes. Vegetables and polyphenols support gut and inflammatory balance. Healthy fats improve satiety and hormonal stability. Sleep remains a critical adaptation variable. Poor sleep undermines insulin sensitivity and increases cortisol levels. Regular sleep timing enhances metabolic rhythm synchronization. Exercise should be moderate during the first adaptation weeks. Excessive training combined with fasting increases stress load. After several weeks, many people report steadier energy. Hunger waves become predictable rather than chaotic. Metabolic flexibility improves with repeated structured practice. 30 days often create measurable hormonal stabilization. However, fasting is not a universal solution. Some individuals perform better with slightly shorter fasting windows. The goal is biological resilience, not rigid adherence. 18-6 is a tool, not an identity. Used wisely, it may reset metabolic communication pathways. If this explanation clarified your understanding, share your experience below. Subscribe for more science-based explorations of human physiology.